Sartorial Geek Podcast. I'm Jordan Ellis of Jordan Danae, and I'm here with Raven Smith, who works at Fantom Comics in DC.
Hello, Internet.
I feel like you actually were one of the first, nerd friends that I made in the con world at Awesome Con, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking it had to be about maybe 3-4 years ago now.
Yeah, I love it because Facebook always tells us our friend anniversaries, and that's very cute. And you work at Fantom, which, well, first I'll tell people who are in DC or visiting the actual address and where to find you, because it's such a cool store.
So like Jordan said, I work at Fantom Comics. We're in the DuPont Circle part of town. The exact address is 2010 P Street. And it's funny because our store is actually on the top floor of a building. So directly below us is a Subway restaurant. And then below that in the basement is a really good taco place.
No way. I didn't know about the taco place. That's awesome.
Yeah, apparently they just opened a couple of months ago. There used to be a pizza place there, but they just decided to switch it up. And I actually had them for lunch today, and it was very good.
That's awesome. Fantom is, so I didn't really read comics as a kid. And so I never had a local comic book shop. And I feel like I'm so sad that I live so many hours away from Fantom, because it would totally be it feels like my local comic book shop, even though I'm only there once a year. You guys have so much, everyone who works there is cool, but you also do so many cool activities and events and stuff that I think is awesome.
Aw, thanks. I mean, I think one of the things that we try to strive and do at Fantom is give everybody the opportunity to feel like they're part of the community, even if they don't live in DC.
That's awesome.
Because one thing that we noticed, especially 4 years ago when we moved from a different part of town, Union Station, to DuPont, we immediately noticed that we were getting a completely different type of customer that was coming in. Because before, we were in a train station, and so a lot of the times when people would come in, it was mostly just folks kind of killing time between picking up their books and then hopping on Amtrak or getting on a Greyhound bus. And now that we're further into the city, we're more of a destination. And ironically enough, we're actually down the block from some hotels. So we were getting a lot of international tourists that were coming in too. Our now former manager, Jake, actually had a great idea where he got a big world map and he pinned it up on the wall when we first got into DuPont, and just bought a bunch of push pins and tell us where you're from. We want to get to know you because we're new to the area. And our map has completely filled up.
That's so cool. I love that.
It's really fun. People are always coming over to take a look at the map, because where our map is in our store, it's right by our counter. So out of the corner of your eye, if you're working on the register, I don't know, where you'll just see somebody just kind of walking over and you're like, wait, what's happening? Oh, wait, you're just going to the map. Man.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we do a lot of different monthly events. We do a lot of book clubs. We do a lot of, we'll do a trivia night. And actually this weekend we have one of our more popular events, Fem Night. So it's basically for anybody that identifies as female, femme, genderqueer, non-binary, what have you. It's just kind of like a chill bi-monthly thing that we do, or we kind of treat it like potluck style. It's a cool way for folks to meet other people, talk about comics, and pretty much just whatever. Sometimes we have a theme for it. Sometimes, like the last time we did it, we ended up just watching a bunch of episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And it's it's really fun. It's one of the few events that we did at our old location that carried over to our new one, and it's by far one of our more popular ones. I think just because it doesn't really take a whole lot to do, but the payoff is really great because you end up with friends.
I would come to that every single time if it wasn't like 4 hours away. That sounds awesome. That's like my favorite kind of thing. And you guys do a lot of signings too. Like I feel like I always see that there are artists and writers coming in, which is really awesome.
Yeah. So one of the ones that we had that was pretty big last year was we had writer Tom King come in, and Tom King does the current Batman series, and he does a really great book, Mr. Miracle, that's a miniseries that's happening right now, and it's doing signings. We love to do them, but it always kind of sucks because sometimes the folks that we want to have come in, like, they'll live super far away. But with Tom, it actually worked out really well because he actually lives in town. And
That's awesome.
It was really funny because the day that he came in for his signing and he did a little talk, nobody recognized him. Because one thing that's always really funny to me with the comic industry is that you'll see names on books, but it's not like with novels where you'll get like an author picture or something like that. By and large, nobody knows what comic writers or artists look like. The only time that you're going to know that is if you go to a convention and you see that they've got the same stuff on their table. So I'm standing behind the counter and I'm waiting for Tom to show up, and there's a huge crowd of people. Everybody's all excited. They're waiting for him to show up. And then he just kind of walks in and nobody bats an eye because nobody knows what he looks like. And I just kind of go, hey, buddy, you ready to do this? And he's like, yeah, sure, just tell me where to go. And everybody just kind of parts like the Red Sea because they're like, wait, what? So that was probably one of the funnier moments that we've had with one of our recent signings.
Do you have to like look people up beforehand? Like, do you know what everyone looks like beforehand?
I mean, sometimes we do. A lot of the time, since I do go to cons probably more than most people, but also probably out of the most of our staff, I kind of familiarize myself with who's who. Plus, I follow a lot of people on Twitter and Instagram. So in a weird way, I kind of like, all right, cool. I know who you are. Now I just have to have you know who I am. So that is
right.
Weird and creepy.
Yes.
but
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's signings are definitely one of our favorite things to do. One thing that I've done for the past 3 years is do a one-day children's day at the store, and we kind of call it Kids Con, because we have a big kids and young adult section, but just because of where we are, we don't get a ton of foot traffic from families. And that's one of the things that I've always wanted to kind of cultivate with the store. Like there was a campaign for a while, but it's still ongoing, called Comics Are for Everyone. Just kind of bringing home the point that you don't have to look a certain way, you don't have to be a certain age, gender, sex, anything like that. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we're reading picture books about people with amazing qualities doing crazy stuff. And, like, there's no a wrong way to be a fan of comics. The only way that I could think of that you could be bad at being a fan of comics is if you try and stop other people from being a fan of comics.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's awesome though, because I feel like, I mean, I know some people have sort of read comics for their whole life, no matter what, but I definitely felt when I was a kid, like it was for boys. And that's not the only reason why I'm sure that I never got into them, but I definitely didn't see a ton of girls or like people who looked like me reading comics. So I think that's really awesome.
Yeah. I mean, as a kid, I mostly read like the little Archie digest you get at the grocery store, and I got the Calvin and Hobbes books and Garfield books that you could get from the Scholastic Book Fair. And I read the comic strips in the Washington Post, and it wasn't until I got into maybe my sophomore year of college that I actually started to collect larger form comics. And it was just by chance because my university's bookstore had a few comics there, and I was just looking for something light that wasn't a textbook that I could just kind of relax in my dorm with, and it really reignited my desire to get back into comics. And it's funny because even working at Fantom was by chance, because the former manager, Esther, I'd been coming around the store for probably about maybe 2 or 3 years prior to that, and I was working someplace else, and my contract expired, and Esther was like, well, hey, if you want a job, I already know you. You seem to not be a serial killer.
All the important things.
Yeah, so it ended up with just me initially thinking, okay, well, I can do this, and then eventually maybe I'll move on. And now it's 4 years later, and I get to do cool things like talk to you on your podcast.
Yeah, I'm so glad that like everyone who works in Fantom is so cool. I've never met anyone who works there or walked in and not like loved everyone who's working there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because we were actually talking about that earlier on today, or something similar to it. Just, we try so hard to be a friendly, welcoming environment for anybody that just walks off the street. Like, our only real rule in the store is just be nice. Treat other people the way that you would want to be treated, and like, don't make any serious waves. Like, we make a point to respect people's pronouns. We try to engage with kids when they come in. It's just common courtesy stuff. And last night I had a family that came in that were apparently visiting from Cleveland, and the dad said, oh, well, we looked you all up online ahead of time, and I gotta be honest, I thought that most of your Yelp reviews were fake. And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, there's no way that these people are as nice and as welcoming as everybody here says they are. Like, it's gotta be their friends. Like, maybe it's fake or something. And then after I finished ringing up, he was like, well, I'm so happy that I was proven wrong. You guys are very nice. And I was like, oh, that's nice.
I love that so much. That's so cool.
But yeah, it was just really cute because he came in with his wife and his son, and apparently they had just gotten back from seeing the new Teen Titans movie, and I had offered their son one of the free promo shirts that we'd gotten for the movie, and this kid, he had to be like 9. I've never seen a child like completely just short circuit. I was like, hey buddy, do you want a shirt? And he was like, what? Like, I don't know. I'm like, here, you can have it. And he was just like, what? And his mom,
that's so cute.
Was like, oh my gosh, that's so nice. Like, really? He can have it? I'm like, yeah, sure. It is a child's XL. It ain't gonna fit me. So, and his dad was like, well, what do you say to the nice lady for giving this shirt? And I swear to God, he literally just went, Woohoo!
Oh my gosh.
It was the cutest thing.
I love that.
But yeah, it's like those are the kind of moments that even on the days where our shipment is late, or you get that one rare person that'll come in and kind of be a little bit grouchy, like those are the moments that I hold close, because I know what it's like to want to engage with somebody about comics but feel like a giant weirdo about it.
Yep. 100%. That is a perfect lead into something I was going to ask you too, because I mean, I guess it's like any industry, but you know, there's good times and bad times, and there are amazing customer interactions, and then there are not as amazing situations. And I feel like you do a really good job of your Facebook is a lot of like telling people, I mean, things they should know. A lot of it is common sense, but it's sort of like PSAs about how to act in a comic shop. And I feel like this is a perfect time to share some of those.
Rule number one, and I feel like this can go for any real thing, but it's just specifically with comics. If you've never read a comic before, and you walk into a comic book store, that's totally fine. Like, nobody's gonna, like, no store worth their salt is going to challenge you to figure out, like, if you actually read comics. If anybody actually does do that to you, you just need to walk out of the store, because it's not a place you want to be. Like,
just leave.
It's
totally
this weird kind of elitist thing where it's like, congratulations, you are the emperor of Nerd Mountain. You get no prizes.
Right.
But yeah, I guess first thing that I think is, you know, there's definitely a way that you can find out if there is a comic book store in your area. You can actually go to you can look up Free Comic Book Day, because they actually have a shop locator on their website.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so wherever you are, you can always just look and see what your closest store is to you, and somebody there can help you out. If you were going in because you saw a recent superhero movie and you're super excited about a character and you want to learn all about it, that's the best. I think some of the best interactions that I've had with people are when they come in not really knowing what they're looking for, but just having a slight idea. Like when Wonder Woman came out, I was opening the store one morning, and this woman it's just barreled into the store with determination in her eyes. I've never seen it before. And I was like, "Hi, welcome to Fantom. How can I help you?" And she just kind of looked at me and was like, "Wonder Woman." And I was like, "Yeah, Wonder Woman was really great. We've got some Wonder Woman books. Were you looking for a specific one?" And she was just like, "I just need Wonder Woman." And I was like,
awesome.
You know what? Yes. So I led her to our Wonder Woman section, and she left with like armfuls of stuff.
I love that.
And it was just really cool. And a similar thing happened with in the lead up to the Black Panther movie. Just droves of people of all ages coming out of the woodwork asking, "How do I learn about Black Panther? What is there a here's everything you need to know book? Can I get this? Can I get that? Do you have this? Do you have that?" And it was just so surreal to see all these people coming in and just being so happy. It made me happy too. And I love to see when a book catches on, regardless of like what the title is, but just to see people come in and be so jazzed about it, because there are obviously certain titles that will always be really popular. You know, the Batmans, the Supermans, the Spider-Man, Deadpool. Then you get the indie titles like Saga, which, oh my god.
I was wondering how long it was going to take for Saga to come out.
Like, it's wild because right now they just finished up the ninth story arc that they have, and they just announced that they're going on hiatus for a year. And,
Oh no.
And after what happened with the most recent issue, which I won't spoil, I it's a good decision to take a year off because I'm sure that they are both being slammed in their inboxes right now. People going, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah, I saw a lot of reactions on the internet, and everyone was so great and not spoilery, which was amazing.
I actually was off work for the bulk of last week. I was out sick, and I was worried that I was going to get spoiled because it was the last issue for a year. And surprisingly enough, I didn't. Everybody was really chill about
Way to
it.
go, guys. That was a good one. way to keep it classy, everyone.
Yeah, I was like, good job, nerds.
It doesn't always happen, but I love when it does.
Yeah, it was a weird moment because I figured it's gonna get blown. Somebody's gonna tell, or somebody's gonna walk into the store and ask me the second that I get in, and I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I didn't
Thanks. Oh yeah, that's the worst.
One thing in particular that I always tell people when they come in and they want to try comics, if you have no frame of reference for what it is that you want to read or get into, I always tell people, think about whatever was the last movie that you really enjoyed or the last television show that you really enjoyed, because chances are there'll be some overlap. If you say you like crime procedurals, but you like them to be more Brooklyn Nine-Nine versus like Law and Order, I would recommend a book from Image called Chew by John Layman and Rob Gilroy. It's about a federal agent, Tony Chu, who solves crimes by eating stuff.
Yeah, I read the first volume and I love it. It's right up my alley.
It's just such a weird book, but it's such a fun book. That was actually one of the first books that I started to collect. It was pretty far in when I started getting it, so I got it in the collected volumes. And I want to say that was the first. Also, the series Fables.
Oh yeah.
So that one, and let me think. Hellboy. I love Hellboy.
Nice.
And it's weird for me. Whenever occasionally I'll get somebody that'll come in and they'll be like, "Oh, so Marvel versus DC, Batman versus Superman. What you picking a side?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just giving you Hellboy." And somebody asked me that the other day, and I was like, "Yeah, it's Hellboy." And they were like, "What? You're not gonna? What about Iron Man? What about Thor or Spider-Man?" I'm like, "No, Hellboy is probably my favorite male superhero." Cause
I've never heard that before. I love it.
Because for me, Hellboy's got such an interesting thing because he's tried so hard to fit into a world that he's not from. Like, he's raised by a doctor around the time of the Second World War, and he's raised like a regular child, even though he's a little red demon. And he tries so hard to fit in, even though his destiny, quote unquote, is that he's going to destroy everything. And he's like, that's not what I want to be. I want to be somebody that helps people because that's who my father figure taught me how to be. And it's like, I love that. And it's kind of like how Superman is super powerful, but he's somebody that is a refugee from a place that doesn't exist anymore. He decides, well, I'm gonna help the people around me because that's who my father figure and mother figure taught me how to be. But yeah, Hellboy has always been one of those classic stories for me because I was that weird kid in school that really loved Halloween.
That's awesome. We would have been friends.
Yeah. Like I always think about it. I'm like, everybody talks about like the horse girl or the kid that was super shy or that like reading books and didn't really talk about that. I was the kid that for whatever reason every single time in elementary school, whenever the librarians would cycle out some of the holiday books, I would just borrow all of the Halloween books. So yeah, it's like Hellboy really hit on that good storytelling kind of spooky vibe that I've always kind of enjoyed. So yeah, he's my favorite male hero. My favorite female hero, though, always She-Hulk. 100%.
That's awesome. I haven't actually read any of those stories, so I will have to.
Oh man, you definitely will love She-Hulk. Largely because She-Hulk isn't just a superhero, she is an attorney. And
oh, that's right.
She's a practicing attorney. And the thing that a lot of people don't know about her is that the reason that, like, how she became She-Hulk is that she was in LA and she was in the middle of a criminal trial against the mob, and some mobsters tried to take her out in a drive-by shooting. They shot her, and her cousin Bruce Banner gave her a blood transfusion without thinking,
whoa,
hey, maybe it's a bad idea to get a blood transfusion from the freaking Hulk. And so she develops Hulk powers, and she's like, wait, what? What did you do, Bruce? And Bruce is like, I was trying to save your life.
That's so awesome.
There's a really good storyline from one of her most recent series where she actually has to defend Captain America against Daredevil in court.
Whoa.
And it's so good.
Is that in a separate like graphic novel form or... Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is it called? Because I'm going to get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just She-Hulk. It was written by Charles Soule, and cool. Javier Pulido did the artwork, and it's so good. Because basically the whole series starts with her working at a law firm, and she gets called into the office because she's like, hey, you guys are gonna make me partner, right? And they're like, we're kind of not, sorry. And she full blown breaks their conference table.
Oh my god!
And she's like, well, I guess I'm kind of not going to work here anymore. Goodbye. I'm gonna go open up my own firm, and she does, and it's really really fun. So yeah,
I cannot wait to read that. That sounds right up my alley. That's so awesome. Well, I want to talk about comic recommendations all day, but where can people find you guys on the internet if they're not near DC? But seriously, everyone who doesn't live in DC, if you ever visit, please go visit. And if you live in DC, you have to go. Like today.
So yeah, anybody can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at just Fantom Comics, and it's Fantom with an F, so it's Fantom, because you know we're putting the fan back in it.
I didn't even realize that. I feel so dumb for not realizing that before.
No,
that makes so much sense.
No, it's really funny because when I first started coming to Fantom all those years ago, I remember asking Esther, being like, why do y'all spell it with an F? And at first she was like, I don't know. And I figured out after talking to some of the store owners, is like they wanted to set it apart and also kind of give it a cool, weird look. And I was like, you know what? this is a cool, weird place. So that tracks.
I love it. That's so awesome. Thank you so much for chatting today and for the recommendations. And I would love to have you back on to talk more comic book stuff, because I'm going to go buy all of these now, which is awesome.
I will do this in a heartbeat. This was really fun.
Perfect. Well, then we'll do it again soon. Thank you guys so much for listening. Like I said, please go to Fantom Comics if you're in DC. And if you like our podcast and want to help us out, you can leave us a rating or leave us a review or check out our Patreon for our rewards over there. Have a great week, everyone. Stay nerdy, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.